Hi guys, Michael again, back with part two of my talking about shoes, etc. I'm up at the shop, up in Southborough at the running hub, just to talk about some shoes and stuff. So I'll start off covering a couple of basics, talk about the difference between neutral runners and support runners. So grab some shoes for examples. Please do. So I'll use these Saucony ones as an example. So we've got the Ride, which is neutral, and the Guide, which is the support one. Okay, they're pretty similar. The main difference is that the Guide has this additional support structure here, which is what we call medial posting. So medial posting is when there is a harder density piece of material on the medial side, so closer to the middle of the body of the shoe, that is designed to act like a brake to stop you rolling. Okay, so the reason why it's important to consider your roll is because when you are running, you're obviously running on one, you only have 1 foot on the ground at a time. So in order to balance, you will come closer to the midline of your body. Okay? So by doing that, you've got a bit of sideways movement coming in. And what ends up happening is people tend to land on the lateral edge, on the edge, and then roll in, which is fine. So if you roll in to here, neutral, that's fine, because you then come out straight. However, what some people do, and about 50% of people have this problem, I wouldn't say it's not problem, that's the wrong word, consideration. And what happens is, instead of rolling to here and then coming out straight, you end up carrying on and what we call overpronating. So you end up with this angle at the back of the shoe. I'm exaggerating a little bit, for example. And what happens then is, when you're here, instead of coming out straight, you come out twisted. And that twist can then present itself somewhere further up the kinetic chain, either at the ankle, the knee, the hip, lower back, wherever it may be, and that can cause essentially an overuse injury, because you're constantly landing in the same plane when you're running, particularly on hard surfaces like pavements. Because you're landing constantly in the same plane, you end up creating the same movement pattern, which can then result in overuse due to this rotation and twisting that can happen. Pronation is natural. Overpronation is something to consider. The necessity to have a support shoe isn't going to affect how quick you run. Jake Whiteman runs in a support shoe. He runs in, where's it gone? This one, New Balance 860. Got a nice chunky medial posting here, and he's run 3:29 for 1500. So it's all right. It's not too much to worry about. What I'll do next is I'll just run through a couple of examples and show you the difference and how much change wearing the correct shoe can make to the way you move. Right. So here we have an example of someone who overpronates, and you can see that from the grey line on the back of the shoe. See how it is coming in at an angle. Okay. So this would suggest that some form of functional support would help straighten that out and just basically prevent any, not prevent, but assist with any potential injuries that might crop up. So this is an example. This is the Brooks Adrenaline GTS, which has guide rails acting as their support function. So they act like bumpers at a bowling alley to just help the foot in line, running up through on the medial and lateral side, just to help keep the foot rolling in the right direction. And you can see it's taken the edge off that roll. This is the Saucony Guide, on the shoe I was talking about earlier. So you can see there's still a bit of movement. It's straighter than it was, but it's definitely snapping in still. So this is again a shoe that the support's not quite right for the foot. So the support is better, but it's not perfect. And finally, the New Balance 860, another shoe that I talked about. You can see how much better that right foot is. There's a little bit of movement through the ankle on the left foot, but I think that is just how it is. But the right foot, much better, much better. So one other important consideration to think about is the life cycle of your shoes. So generally, up at the shop when we're selling, we talk about 500 miles or 800 kilometers. It's generally sort of the benchmark figure for the life cycle of a pair of shoes. There's a few ways you can test to see how your shoes are doing, whether or not they're nearing the end of their life cycle or not, or basically how they're doing. So the reason why shoes have a bit of a lifespan is because essentially you're dealing with a spring damper model. So the foam will compress and then won't return back to its normal springy goodness. So yeah, a couple of tests that you can do. So the 2-finger test. So this is a fairly old shoe. You can see how it's just flexing at the forefoot. So this is on its way out. Not quite dead yet. There's probably another bit, a couple of miles or so in that, and it'll be all right. But then the other thing to consider is this: it's a squish test. So if you see the squish on this foam, super squishy, particularly at this back point here. All right. So basically, you can see it's starting to split as well. So little things like that are worth looking at, and sort of how your shoe is holding up. So if I compare it to a new one, this one, all right, so 2-finger test, no movement at all, still nice and stiff, not moving, and then squeezing, no give. So yeah, so look at after your shoes, try and dry them out. So don't put them in the don't put them in the washing machine, not the dishwasher, because that will damage the upper. Try and keep them dry, so chuck them in front of a radiator. That means they don't stink as much. So yeah, covered a couple of basics here. Difference in neutral versus support, how to look after your shoes, and yeah. So if you're looking into buying shoes, there's a few places you can do it. Obviously, I'd love it if you came up to the shop. Keeps me in a job. So we're running hub in Southborough. All TAC members get 10% off, so pop up and see us. But if you know what you're looking for, sportshoes.com, Wiggle, places like that, or even direct from the brands are pretty good. Most run specialty brands are pretty good. Like Brooks is the biggest at the moment, by probably Saucony, within run specialty. So that's stores or shops that only sell running specific kit. Yeah, I mean, lots of people like Nike, same with Adidas, generally pretty good. On, it's an emerging brand that's doing pretty well, same with Hoka. But the important thing is to find what works for you, because when you're buying a pair of shoes, the pecking order of priorities to consider is: 1, up here, is it right for your feet? Is it the right shoe for how you move? Secondly, is it comfortable? So, does it fit your foot well? Because there should be no barrier to you going out and for your runs. Like you should be able to put a shoe on and it should feel like a natural extension of the foot, like it's not an impediment and it's not getting in the way of you running. And then thirdly, in the priorities, things like price and colour and things like that, the things that the nice to haves rather than the essentials. So yeah, is it right? Is it comfortable? If it hits both those, it's going to do all right. So perfect. Hopefully that's helped. And if anyone has any other questions on shoes and stuff, let me know and I'll try and answer them. Cheers. Bye.